defining God for myself. And I should stress, I'm not getting married to these ideas. I'm just putting them out there to see how they feel in the air around me, really. And I've just been talking about God as symbolized by some kind of circle or sphere. That sphere representing limit cases, and it's a limit which is always beyond the grasp, if you like. It's always at the limit. It's never a limit you can reach. So I'm just trying to think out some of the implications of that a bit further, bearing in mind that I'm just working with a symbol right now. I think one of the things it does, that idea of the circular limit, is it provides an opposite pole to what it is to be a human being, at least for me. And again, I'm just talking about kind of myths and symbols, really. Because certainly one of the aspects I think we probably all feel, to a certain extent, I certainly do, is that we have a kind of core to our being, a kind of central self, and we kind of gesture towards that when we talk about I think this, or this is what it means to me. We point inwards, as if to a kind of imaginary center, an imaginary core, an imaginary axis to our experience. And I think if we were to try to think about what that center might be, that core, that axis might be, I think we'd be forced to think of it not as in terms of having content, but I think we'd be kind of obliged to think of it kind of as a dimensionless point, really. I mean, that would be the logical extension of that, of a sense of a core, at least. That kind of excavation to find the core of one's being, would be a journey that would be, through several layers of acculturation, layers of, I guess, kind of innate personality development, that kind of thing. But I think there's a kind of intuitive sense there that the ultimate interior central core of one's being would be a dimensionless, contentless point. Now, I'm not saying that is, I'm just saying that's the logic of the symbol. That's the logic of the language around that. And that idea of a core self is not just found in any kind of metaphysical sense. It is found all over different kinds of literature, scientific, psychological literature. Okay, so whilst we have this idea of core self, this dimensionless point, it makes kind of sense to set up an opposition to that. And the logical opposition to this central contentless point is either an infinitely distant, infinitely expanded, unreachable limit, and we kind of feel ourselves maybe to be operating somewhere in the space between this central point and this ultimate limit. And it's, as I say, it's a limit which is extensible and unreachable. And if you're going to give that limit a name, you could call it God, and it has the properties of singularity. It has the properties of interpersonality, or transcends personal difference, transcends any kind of difference. It's just as an idea. I mean, that's where the ideas go, I think, with that. So again, I can kind of feel a logic for a God, for the word God, which exists within a metaphorical, kind of mythic symbol structure, in which one feels oneself to be oriented around a central point, core self, and the ultimate boundaries of, well, we wouldn't even call it self, the ultimate boundaries of a kind of ontology of everything would, if that boundary had a name, I guess we could call that name God, and it would be circular. I'm just reminded actually here, just in passing, of Pauline Oliveros, the musician. talks about deep listening, which I think I've mentioned before in the past. And one of the symbols she uses within her practice, and she uses music as a kind of, not as an aid to meditation, but a method, the making of sound as a method of meditation. One of the symbols that she uses for the different forms of listening is the circle with a dot, in which the circle represents a kind of deep listening, a listening which is not oriented to a specific point. You're not, if I get this right, I may be misinterpreting it completely, you're not listening to the sounds as yourself from where you are. You're trying to open up your access to the sounds, so you're kind of hearing in a more global sense, or a more all-encompassing sense. As I say, she uses the circle with the dot as a symbol for that.